Braddock at one time had a lot of ethnic parishes. And so I belonged to St. Michael's, which is a Slovak parish. And then there was the Germans, the Irish, the Polish, the Italians, and so on. Kind of remarkable. In fact, we knew the church not by its name, but by the nationality. So we referred to them, the Irish, German, whatever have you. Yeah. And then went to Braddock High School. Graduated in 1950.
What did your parents do?
My dad worked in the steel mills. Yeah, he worked. In fact, he died on his day off. He put in, I'll never forget, he was 64 and put in 48, 50 years in a mill. And see, I'm first generation immigrant. They came. My dad came from Slovakia, what do you call it, Republic of Slovakia, and likewise my mother. After that, I spent a year. I worked for Orange Furniture Company. I thought this is not the way to live my life.
Why not?
I saw the sun come up in the morning and go down it, and I left work. It was going down. So I spent a year there, and then joined the Navy. Yeah, did I join the Navy? I went to the missions. First went to the missions.
What's the missions?
I went to the Philippines. Well, I came out of a very religious family. My dad was a very devout Catholic, and then it was almost a kind of a natural thing to join the priesthood. Yeah, so I spent a year out of it, and I went on retreat, and I was at St. Vincent's, and the meals were very good. I thought, my God, this is where I want to be. The meals are so delicious. So I joined them and spent the next 8 years there at St. Vincent's. I had a brother that he just signed up for the Navy, and he couldn't make it. He had trouble with seasickness, and I kind of felt I felt an obligation to fulfill his time in the service because he couldn't fulfill his. So that's how I joined the Navy at that point. Just came.
And you said there was a call for chaplains in 1968?
Oh yeah, at that time. In fact, in the diocese, they were looking for chaplains, and actually, the military was asking for chaplains, and so that's when I signed up. Yeah,
and that was in 1968.
68. Yes, yeah, right.
Vietnam is going full blown in 1968.
Actually, I started out in 66. Yeah, 66. Yeah, when the call went out, 66, and then Vietnam was 68.
What did your superiors have to say about you joining the Navy as a chaplain?
Well, interesting question, because they thought I was going to want to leave the priesthood, and so they just let me do what I wanted to do. So that's what I ended up doing.
Would you have left the priesthood if you hadn't joined the Navy?
No.
Why did they think you were going to leave?
Well, I was kind of a rebellious individial.
You were a rebellious individual. Tell me about that.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Why? How?
Rebellious in the sense of I used to break rules in the seminary all the time. I'm going to give you a good example. We had what they call magnum silencio. You had the great silence, and you would have to immediately after the night prayers, we'd all go to church, and you had to be silent. And if so there was always someone around the corner catching me talking. So yeah, and then also you had. The great silence was really something. You couldn't talk from the time you finished up evening prayers until the next morning. Well, I found that very difficult. So, in fact, I had a guy, this is a kind of a secret one. I had a guy, a friend of mine was a floor below me. So we had at night when the lights would go out automatically 9:30, all the lights in the seminary went out at 9:30 because we would get up at 5:30. So what they did, we had he was a floor below, and I would drop down a can or some kind of way of communicating, and would continue on communicating. So that was.
So where did that sense of rebelliousness come from, do you think? Did you have it as a small child?
No, I think, good question. Couldn't I like that? Because, it was very rebellious. I'm trying to think of where it came from. I didn't believe in rules. I didn't like restrictions. Even to this day, I can't stand, one rule or one kind of another. So as a result, I think it just carried on through.
Well, then it would strike me that the priesthood and the military would be bad fits for you, right?
Yes, it was, right. Sure, because of what I've just said. Yes. So that's what made my time in the military kind of a crazy time.
So see, it just sounds to me, I'm guessing, that when the offer to join the Navy came up, that was a way for you to kind of escape and have a new adventure or a
That's right.
new experience.
Yeah, I was always adventurous. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, I always was looking for something different. Joined the Navy. I was, let me just, I was, let's see, I was ordained 24. I was about, because I was in the parish about 6 years. So I must have been about 30 already, yeah.
35, you
yeah,
told me.
right, exactly.
You were 35 years
Yeah,
old.
right.
That's quite old
It
to
is.
join the Navy.
Right.
What year were you born?
32.
So you were 35 years old, and how does a 35-year-old, do you have to go to boot camp with all the young
Well,
kids?
yeah, we had to go to chaplain. I went in as a chaplain.
Okay.
So yeah, so we up at Cape Cod there was a chaplain's what do you call it, training session. So it was about 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And was it similar to regular boot camp?
no.
Not at all?
No, it was it was for chaplains, and I kind of defied that whole the whole system. Yeah, yeah. You had to go through orders. You had each day someone took care of lining up the guys. Go attention, left, right, turn, and it was my turn. I said, guys, you know what to do. I'm not going to bark orders at you. Yeah, I never forget. Yeah.
So so that does sound like boot camp, where you learn to march, you learn to
right,
salute, you
yeah.
learn all the ranks and
Yes.
all that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
right. Yeah. Well, but it was chaplains. It was it wasn't the tough boot camp that the military went through.
Right.
It was chaplains.
And so then where did the Navy send you after
Well,
that
my
experience?
first tour was in what was it? In the West Cape Lejeune.
Oh,
Yeah,
so they sent you to Camp Lejeune.
Yeah. But then Vietnam broke out, and they wanted the guys to go over there, so I signed up for that.
Did you volunteer for that?
Yeah, I did.
Why in the world would you volunteer to go to Vietnam?
I'm always looking for adventure. Yeah, I'm an adventurous soul. I was always, I thought it was a great way to, yes, I did.
And that would have been in 1968.
Yeah, right.
Do you remember the date that you landed in Vietnam?
I landed there because I was having trouble. Yeah, I landed there in, let me see, in January, was it January? Tet Offensive broke loose. Yeah, so it was, just in January sometimes, yeah.
So January 1968, right about when the Tet Offensive
Right.
broke out,
Yeah.
you arrived in Vietnam.
Right.
Tell me about your first impression of the country when you landed.
Well, first of all, we had to go to Okinawa. And at that time, Tet Offensive broke out. So Okinawa was like the staging area. And it was hell. I got there on a Saturday night, and I was with a Protestant chaplain. And he was cursing. He had just left Vietnam, and he was cursing the whole experience. Like I never knew anybody that cursed it, so you knew what you could do with all those Marines and use slang words. He did not like it, the idea of being in Vietnam. So I replaced him, and then he went over with me, but he was so frightened by Vietnam. I mean, it was because Tet had broken out and there was hell all over the place. He was so frightened by it, we had to take him out of the country. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because we had these bunkers. I don't know, because we used to get hit quite a bit along the DMZ. So they asked me to go see the sea beast and get this lumber, 12 by 12, and make a bunker. So I did. Even and anytime we were getting hit, we went into the bunker. He got so frightened by just being hit, we literally had to have him shipped back take it out of the country. Because at his homilies, his little dialogues and so on, he was always talking about how about getting killed in war. He put an anxiety or fear into the guys, which you can't do that. So we shipped him out. Yeah.
What Marine unit were you attached to?
Well, it was the 5th. Yeah.
You were the 5th Marines?
Yeah.
The 5th Marine Division.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Whatever is along the DMZ. Yeah.
And what was your mission? What were you to do? What was your job?
Oh, counsel with the guys.
Marines.
Yeah, Marines. Yeah, because and then also too, there was a lot of Red Cross messages. That was a big thing. Their spouse, marriage or pregnancies or deaths, especially deaths. So Red Cross would come with death notices. So I had to bring the guys in and try and get them back to the States as quickly as we could.
Okay.
Because it's a death in the family.
So was this unit that you were attached to, were they Marines who kind of went out
Yeah.
on patrol very often along the DMZ and I Corps?
Yes.
Did you ever go on patrol with them?
I did a couple of times. But I think the worst was this, and that was really kind of remarkable, because we got called, we got a telephone call, or we got one of our men was, was killed over there. He was just got killed by a sniper. He was on a patrol, and they would always hit you between the running lights right here. And so we had to go to grave registrations to check him out. So I went with the guys, and sure enough, I said to the corpsman there, I says, well, where's the wounds? Picked the back of his head. It was all blown away. So coming back, we were coming back, let me remember this, as we were coming back, we suddenly we were being attacked, so we all, we kind of hit on it. I went beside the Jeep or behind the Jeep or whatever have you, till it was all over. But a couple of guys went berserk over the whole thing of being hit.
Was that common?
Pardon me?
Was that common?
No.
No?
Yeah. No, it was not common.
Okay.
But we made it a point. The other thing is the guy that came with us was his buddy. And so, he was distraught over the whole thing, and we had to do something with him. So when I got back, I told the commander, I says, we can't let him stay here. I says, we got to ship him back to the States because he's so absolutely torn apart by all this. So I said, let's just ship him back to the States.
And he got shipped back?
Oh, yeah, had to.
So did you have that kind of power to recommend?
Oh yes, yeah.
That's a lot of power to have.
Yeah, well, because I was right with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was right with him, dealing right with him. So you're right about that, yes.
And they were a lot younger than you.
Yeah, very much so.
Did they call you old man? What did they call you?
Padre.
They called you Padre.
Yeah, Padre. Yeah. But I think I was a vigorous 35. Not what I am today, obviously. I kept up with them, no problem.
Were you ever scared?
No, that was the problem. Never. That was my difficult. I thought the guy that's going to get killed was the guy next to me, or the guy on my left or right. But as far as I was concerned, I never felt I was going to get killed. And so if you go with that idea of not getting killed, I don't know, I just felt that strongly. That's a good question because people often ask me that, but I never felt it. I always felt it was going to be the guys around me, but never me. Yeah, but I was in situations where, that I would, so one time, and the reason I got the Bronze Star.
Tell me that story.
Yeah, because we were being hit very badly that day. But first I lived in a Quonset hut, and we lived along the DMZ. So anytime we got incoming, we had a hole in our Quonset hut and just dove right into it, and until it was all over. But this particular one time, we were being hit in the afternoon, and so I was with my African American guy, Johnson, a hell of a driver for me. He drove me wherever I wanted to go, and we were being hit, and I noticed the guys were being exposed to all this. So I said to him, let's go and get these guys in foxholes, get them into the bunkers. So we went around picking up guys and bringing them to our place. And that's why they ended up giving me the Bronze Star, because it was kind of heroic in that time. But again, if you don't feel like you're going to get killed, you do whatever you feel.
Yeah, but what did your driver think? Maybe he didn't feel that way.
Johnson, to this day, if you ever meet Johnson in Chicago, he was a sergeant at the time. I have to thank him because he was going here, there, and everywhere just to avoid being hit.
Is he still alive?
I assume he is, yeah.
What was his name?
Johnson was his last name. I just call him Johnson.
You didn't know his first name?
No.
Johnson in Chicago might be hard to find.
Yeah, right. and then just the day before that, I mean, tell you how dangerous we were. There was a guy who was going to be going the next day. He was in the chaplains. He was in the office there, one of the offices, and he was going to go leaving the next day to go to Boston College. He was going to get his degree. We were along to, and that night or that morning or that night, he get killed. I thought how tragic it was the day before he was to leave. Because the big thing in Vietnam was what they call you spent short timers. I don't know if you're familiar with it. They had all kind of gimmicks.
Tell me about that. Yeah, tell me
They-
about that.
Well, they had the short timer stick. They had so much time they start carrying the stick around. How many days or they would have in their huts they would have a painting of a woman on the kind of and they would paint her all up except to the privates. And that was time to get home. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, they were extremely aware of how much time they had to spend there. So yeah, then I was always surprised how strong that was. And as I said, they had the short time, or they used cards, deck of cards, and then they would pass out a card every day, and then finally the one. Yeah, so putting your time or putting that year in. I mean, it was just a year, and you wanted to get to. And as I say, the Marines made it a point of putting an extra more than a year, 13 months because of the travel I mentioned before. Yeah.
And you re-upped for a second tour.
I did because one of the thing was, if you re-opt, they would send you. You got 30 days leave. You get extra leave, and they would travel. They would take you any place in the world you wanted to go. So there was a courier route. So I wanted to get on a courier and kind of travel all around the world, pretty much around the world on a courier route. Yeah.
And that's what you did?
Yeah. Went from place to place.
For how long?
Well, it was about 4 or 5 months. Yeah. So yeah.
And was your second tour any different from your first tour?
Yeah, because it was shortened.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, what happened? I ended up being sent to Okinawa. All the Protestant chaplains were sent home, but we still needed the Catholics. So I ended up on weekends. I was like the coordinator for the Catholic chaplains. I would assign them to different places to go.
Why were the Protestant chaplains sent home?
I guess they didn't need them this much.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say if a Marine came to you and said, Padre, I'm scared I'm not going to make it? Did they come to you with?
Oh yeah. Oh sure.
What would you tell them?
Well, we had that Greek Catholic chaplain, and he got frightened to death. So they shipped him.
But if a 19 or 20-year-old kid.
Well,
came to you,
now you remind me of a story. Yeah, this guy says, he says let me get my thought. He says I can't, get to be here. He says my mother wants me home or something. I forget. I said, do you realize, if you get killed, your mother's going to get 20,000. I said, so actually you're a great commodity for your mother. So I mean, don't get killed, but I mean, your mother's going to be well off after you leave. And if Lord forbid anything were to happen to you. That's what I would be telling these guys. In fact, they came in and complained about, they can't stand here. I said, so, and I said, you have an obligation to be here. But that was a story I used about your mother's going to be better off.
That was quite a controversial war, as you know.
Yeah, at the time, I see what goes on. At the time, I never felt that. In fact, I found myself wondering, why didn't I sense the futility of this war? It was futile. We absolutely should have never been there in the first place. But I'm kind of always duty bound when it comes to this. I just carried it on through and never saw it that way. But you're right. I find myself pondering that question today.
So so at the time, you didn't question the war. When did you start questioning it?
It's done in the last 10 years or so. Yeah, I begin to see. In fact, at the time we had to draw. Being in Vietnam, we had to draw a line of defense. I mean, all the arguments they use of why we should be in Vietnam, which today, I mean, they. Now the interesting thing was, I went to see my bishop. Bishop Bishop Wright or Cardinal Wright or Bishop Wright out of my own diocese, because he's the one that allowed me to get into service. But he was a pacifist of the first degree, and it was kind of interesting. I come back after 13 months in Vietnam and so on, come back to see him. He says, so how is the church in China? How's the church in Japan? And I'm thinking to myself, What are you talking about? I was in Vietnam. He would not dare talk about Vietnam. He did not want to hear one word about it.
He didn't want to hear about it.
Didn't want to hear it. He was a profound pacifist. And then I stood at the door. He says, go up and see go see his auxiliary at the time was Leonard. Yeah, but he would not nothing to do with it.
What did Leonard have? Did Leonard ask you about it? Because I remember Bishop Leonard.
Yeah, I remember. Leonard was he was a good listener, and he knew he basically knew he was just filling in, so he kind of just listened to what I had to say. He was very gracious.
Did you like being a Marine?
I enjoyed being in the service, not particularly the Marines, just being in the service.
Well, those chaplains and corpsmen, they often consider that they are treated as Marines when they're in the Marines. And, when we have corpsmen and chaplains come to our events, I always ask them, what do you want your name badge to read, Navy or Marines? 9 times out of 10, they'll say Marines.
Oh, do they say that? Yeah, they're proud.
And how would you consider yourself more the Navy or more the Marines?
More Marines.
More Marines.
Oh, my God. Out of the 12.6, I only served, I served 3 years under Roosevelt, the Navy Chaplain. And that was it. The rest of the time was Marines.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you like the Marines?
Yeah, I enjoyed their company. They're a crazy bunch. Yeah. And then, they're good. They're good men. Good men. I loved them. Yeah.
Marines seem to really revere corpsmen. Do they revere chaplains in the same way?
Yes. Very much so. Very protective.
Very protective.
Yeah, very much so.
So would they protect you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yes. Yeah. When I think, yes.
Did you ever face a problem with a Marine that you couldn't solve or you couldn't help? Or
Oh, yeah. Because they used to play around with 45s. You know what happened. We lost two Marines that way, playing with the gun and put a bullet into the spinal cord. 2 guys. I mean, it was kind of crazy. There was what was his name? Mulholland. A guy. He was with the Marines, and he was really a tough guy, and he was too tough on the guys. And I told him to take it easy on them. And what he did, he was in charge of 45 guns, the artillery, and someone must have stopped the barrels. Oh my God. In the middle of the night, he got them all out with his 45. He said, which one of you bastards did this to him? I mean, he was just ruthless. I mean, he was ready to kill any one of them. And he put him in a brig. I mean, he was just tough. Yeah.
how'd you get along with Mulholland?
Oh, I told him he was too severe, but we were good friends. So yeah, we got along well. But his great thrill, I'll never forget that, was to go to Leningrad and bring home his mother's chandelier. Yeah, one of the chandeliers from Leningrad in Russia. He was through and through a Marine. Because I used to get called in the middle of the night because when they bring the guys in, I would anoint them or whatever and pray over them and so on. So I saw a lot of tragic. And if they came off the helicopter, and if they went to the right, they went to grave registration. They went to the left, they went to our hospital. And I never forget the one guy. It's just you're making me rethink about these. My gosh, God rest his soul. The one guy took a hit and blew away the whole bottom of his chin and everything else away. Yeah, and he was in the helicopter. He was in a stretcher, gapping. And he was going to go to the hospital, go to our hospital there. And I mean, gosh, I thought to myself, wow. So we saw there was some really tragic, what it called, and violent. I never thought the human body could take that much, torture and be just torn apart like they were. So you never knew what was going to come off that helicopter. Yeah, and so some of the bodies that came off there was ugly. Yeah.
How did you deal with that kind of stress of seeing that day after day?
There's a certain within me. There's a strong mentality I mean, I just took it as drive. You're right about that question, because as I mentioned, the Protestant chaplain, he just couldn't take it. Yeah, I mean, it was just too much for him. I mean, I felt an obligation to want to help these guys. I felt they needed someone to assist them and whatever, help them out. Yeah.
Did you pray?
Sure, my God, yes.
I mean, in your own time, did you enter contemplation just to kind of deal with the difficulty of your job?
Oh my God, yes.
Did you really?
Oh my God, yeah. And we'd have a day of recollection once a month. We'd take a break, and just with other chaplains, we'd kind of gather together and have a prayer session or three. Which it would take me. We'd get down to Da Nang, which would take a day to get down, and then the next day we'd have a prayer service, mass, and contemplation. Yeah, you had to.
Did you pray for God to give you the strength to do this job?
Oh my God, yes. You had to pray. Yeah, yes. Oh my God, yes. Yeah.
Were those prayers answered? Did you feel like
Well,
you
not all the time, because some came back dead. I mean, some came back wounded very badly. But when you leave that, someone says, "Where was God for the Holocaust?" And the answer to me the other day was, "Where was man? Where was man?" So it's so that I'm the intermediary, where to help those people, to pray with them, pray for them.
Did that war change your faith? Did it challenge your faith?
Oh, it challenged my faith, no question.
It did?
Oh my God, yes.
Tell me that. Talk about that, please.
Well, it challenged in the sense of, I use that phrase: young men fight wars, middle-aged plan them, and old men like me come to despise it. So I saw so one of the things I have to remark about our president, he's made everything in his power to avoid war. In fact, I don't know where that comes from him. I mean, I don't know if you're keenly aware of that. Yeah, he has done everything in his power not to involve us in any kind of conflicts. Because you kind of discover, where does conflict get you? What does it achieve? So that's the same. I'm beginning to feel that now too. What does it achieve? So I think eventually, if man learns to live with one another, we'll eventually, hopefully, but I don't think it'll happen. We'll just not have wars anymore. Yeah.
Did seeing those bodies come off those helicopters ever inspire you to question God? I mean, where was God here with all this death and disfigurement?
You got to remember, you're tied up emotionally with the whole area. There's no time for contemplation.
You're busy doing your job.
You're busy trying to help the guys. But yeah.
So you gave last rites.
Oh yes, immediately, yes. Yeah, the anointing, right. Sacrament of the sick. And oftentimes, what they call a triage. I don't know if you're aware of a triage.
Talk about that.
Yeah, well, triage is the fact they would bring these bodies in, and if they were dead, they would go to the right. But triage was like a huge room where they brought in the wounded, and I would go, and they just brought them out of the ground war, out of the battle. And so I would go in there, and then I would anoint them. I would give them the sacrament of the sick. And I remember I would make it a point. I would ask and I would get called in the middle of the night often. I would ask the corpsman, whoever was running it, who was closest to dying or so on, because I thought they needed it more than, say, the other ones did. So I would go to the triage, often be called in there. And anytime the helicopter came in with bodies, and they would announce it. They would, kind of warn us. So when the helicopter came landing there along the DMZ, we were waiting for them. And so if they went when they went to the right, there was grave registration. It came to the left, they came to our triage. Yeah, so that's where it was. Yeah.
Did it bring comfort to some people who were at the end or close to the end?
Oh, yes. Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Was it difficult to come home after that?
It was. You know why? We weren't accepted. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Talk about that, please.
Well, in fact, my own family. In fact, here I spent 13 months in Vietnam, came home, and nobody was there to console me or ask me how did it go, how are you feeling. And a lot of the guys felt that, by the way. They felt ignored. We put in that time because the war was so objected to, and nobody wanted nothing to do with it. So they came home, and so I made it a point. Anytime I was at the airport or wherever I was, and if a guy was in Vietnam, I would make it a point sitting down and talk to him, because the public wanted nothing to do with us. And as I say, with my own family, I came home and it's just kind of we were ignored.
So what did your family, did you have brothers and sisters?
Yeah, there's 8 of us, yeah.
8 of you?
Yeah.
And they didn't ask you about it?
No.
Why do you think they didn't ask you about it?
Well, one of the things is, first of all, they weren't caught up with the war, basically, yeah. And they never gave it much thought. The only one that was caught up, my sister, she would send me tapes. I had a sister who kind of kept in touch with me. But the rest of the family, no dealings. Yeah, no parts, nothing. Yeah.
Did they object to you being there?
No, they didn't object. They just do whatever you wanted. I was always a very independent cuss, so I did whatever I wanted to do.
Were your parents alive at the time?
My dad was. In fact, my dad died. Yeah, let's see. My mother was, and she says they were saying how much she prayed for my safety.
What was the Roosevelt like?
It was an old beat up aircraft carrier. Yeah, and the fear was, this is interesting. The fear was it was such an old. It was a CV-42, and the fear was that it was going to sink along the water. So the guys thought any moment that the ship was going to not make it across the Atlantic. So what would happen was there was a lot of guys that went UA. So before we took off, they did not show up for the departure.
They went AWOL?
Yeah, exactly. And so we had an executive officer who was ruthless, and he made sure they not only he tracked them down and got, but also made sure they spent 30 days in the brig and brought them back to the ship, had them flown back to the Med.
So when you were on the Roosevelt, you were a chaplain,
Right?
And what kind of problems did you deal with there?
One of the things was Red Cross. Someone in the family passed away, and then occasionally they had difficulty being on the ship. Yeah. And then we also had, while I was on the ship, we had attempts of suicide on the fan kill. We had tried. Oh, there was a couple of things. First, as an aircraft carrier, we had someone. There's on landing of the planes, there are four cables, and they have to check those cables because when a plane lands, it comes in about 140 miles an hour, and then and the cable pulls the plane and brings it to a halt. Someone didn't check the cables for these, and they were sons of admirals. You got the picture, yeah, and they went into the drink. I mean, two sons of admirals. I mean, they didn't check the cable properly, and whatever have you. And so when the plane got to a halt, and it snapped then and went into the drink. So we had an investigation for the next 2 days, trying to see. Obviously, they had no time to react. I mean, you could eject if they could, but I mean, you have that happening. They into the drink, and that's So, and to lose sons of admirals, that was sad. Yeah.
And there were some suicides?
Pardon me?
Were there suicides?
Now you're talking about suicide. Yeah, they'd go on our fantail, and it would jump over the side. Yeah, and I remember one time we lost. Let's see, we maybe lost 3 or 4 guys that didn't make it, but we would spend almost the whole day in a circle trying to find the guys. Yeah, yes.
So in Vietnam and maybe even on the Roosevelt, part of your job maybe, did you write letters to the family?
Yes.
Was that a hard thing to do?
Not really, because I had a good clerk, and so we were able to, yes.
Okay.
And then sometimes, too, if a guy committed suicide, I remember having to write to the parents, and the parents were angry as could be. I mean, well, you can't blame them. Yeah. So yeah, that was a, and I tried to explain to them, but they had no explanation.
No.
It just could have satisfied them.
No.
To lose a, yeah.
When did you serve in the Philippines?
Philippines, and I left. I served in the Philippines from 68 to 70. Yeah, yeah. After, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Tell me what you did in the Philippines.
I ended up a chaplain at a hospital, so we ended up building a hospital. And in fact, it was actually I tied the two together, because of my Navy time. The chapel needed money to maintain it, to build it up, and so I wrote to all my Navy chaplain friends, and there was money coming in continued to this day. So we were able to build the hospital there in the Philippines. Yeah.
And you tended to Navy and Marines in the Philippines?
I wrote to these chaplains.
He was out of the Navy.
Yeah, I was out of the Navy by that time, and they were willing to send me money.
Why did you leave the Navy?
Yes, it was. It's a good question. I should have never left. I should have put in 20 years and got a pension. I was bored. Not bored so much. I was restless.
You were restless.
Yeah, restless. Yeah, I wanted to do something else. Yeah, I should have just stayed. All I needed to do, I put 12 years, 6 months, another 8 years, I would have had it. Yeah, yeah. And I didn't even bother staying in the reserves. That was the other thing. See, if I had stayed in the reserves, I could have indeed been collecting the pension now.
And you were a commander, too,
Yes,
when you left.
Yes, yes.
What were you doing when you left the Navy? Were you still on the Roosevelt, or were you...
When I left the Roosevelt, no, I got out of the service.
Okay.
Yeah, that's when I got out. Yeah. What I should have did, not spent that extra year on there and just continue on. But that's the heck with it.
So what did you do then when you got out of the Navy?
Went to the parish.
Which parish?
I went to Torrendum.
Uh-huh.
Torrendum, yeah. I went to, Good Shepherd, yeah. Torrendum, Torrendum, they had a parish. And in...
And you were the parish priest?
Yeah, I was a parish priest. Yeah.
What was that like compared to your career as a chaplain?
Night and day.
Tell me about that, the difference.
Yeah.
Was it hard adjusting?
Well, it's in the Navy, as a Navy chaplain, you were in an excitement, and but as going to a parish, it was daily mass and counseling and kind of boring. Yeah, yeah. But I stuck with it though. But and then you had to involve yourself with the youth group and whatever have you, and administration. I never did like quite administration. So parish, when you're a pastor, there's lots of administration. Yeah. So, yeah.
Let me ask you, Joseph, do you ever get together with Marines you served with in Vietnam?
At one time I did, but no more.
At one time you did?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Reunions, something like that?
Yes.
And what was that like?
It was always a delight. We kind of compare stories. Yeah, because there was a number of guys that had served they served in Okinawa, so we'd get together with them. And we'd get together once a month and so on. It was always good.
How many chaplains were assigned to a division, a Marine division? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, well, sure, one.
Just one?
Well, you're talking about division.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, first of all, there's a scarcity of Catholic chaplains.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, there was very much of a scarcity. The Protestants always had enough.
Why is that? Why did Catholic priests not join?
Well, because you'd had to get permission from your diocese.
Okay.
And some dioceses, some, in fact, they had almost begged. In fact, the reason I came in because they were made a request that they needed chaplains, and that's the reason I responded to that request given to the bishop. But a lot of bishops didn't want to send their men to the
service.
Yeah.
Maybe because they were anti-war.
Well, not so much that they just didn't want to lose them to that.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about your service?
Well, the only thing I would have to say is that when I look back on the service, it's yeah. I only hope that more Catholic priests would want to, they need Catholic chaplains, and it's kind of, and it's really kind of unique. It's a full-time job, so you're going to be constantly in use, and they need somebody to help them. Well, they need, I would say, daily mass for them. So that was the other thing. And see, now with the lack of priests, they're not having daily masses, so on.
Right.
And so on, and then especially like on weekends now, so they're having difficulty finding priests to cover the chaplaincies.
Right.
Yeah. So there's just, I would simply say to them, to join because there's a need for you, a greater need than there is in the parish. But again, we don't have the priests now as we used to. I don't know if you know, there's a scarcity now. We're not, in my class, ordination class, there was about 15 of us. Now, this year, we had one. Next year, we have nobody. 2 years ago, we had nobody, no ordinations. Wow. So, I mean, you're talking about scarcity. It's really, it's drastic.
Drastic scarcity.
Drastic, yeah.
I would imagine that you suffered, as you should have, from post-traumatic stress.
I didn't have that.
Why not, do you think?
I don't know.
You never had dreams, nightmares, never had problems with, no?
No.
Why do you think that is?
I kind of was able to block it off. Yeah, because I know guys that had, I had none whatsoever. I mean, I left that experience there where it was and let it go, and I let go of it. So I had none of that, as you say, that drama or that none whatsoever.
Special grace from God.
Pardon me?
A special grace
Well,
from God.
it's my makeup too,
Why? What's your makeup?
My makeup is the fact, I was one of 8 in a family, and it was a tough family in the sense of my father died to me at a very early age, too early. And so, and then the makeup, in the family, there wasn't that cohesion and that loyalty and fraternal love. So as a result, I learned to live shall we say, a bit of solitary life. Yeah. In fact, even to this day, I don't. I'm there in a parish now, and the family doesn't come together, visit, and so on that they should. Yeah, I don't. I have one sister. She comes only when I call her, and that's reluctantly. Yeah, so there's not that solidarity.
Did the Marines kind of serve as a surrogate family or a second family for you?
They did. So, yes, I would say that. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. The service was that for me. Yeah.